Hi, welcome back. This is Dr. Matt B with your Emotional Minutes. And today we're talking about emotion regulation. Now, a lot of times people will say, well, I have emotions. What's the difference? What is regulation? And really, what regulation is it's just kind of a snazzy term for to indicate things that people do to try to, deal with or cope with or even kind of control their emotions in response to certain situations. Now, when we talk about regulation, we often talk about how we have emotional responses, but then we also have ways that we respond to our emotional responses, ways that we deal with those emotions. So, for example, you might feel very angry, but then, say yelling at someone or acting out at someone in anger is not the same as the experience of anger itself. So, there's the emotion in terms of what we experience internally, but then there's also how we react to it and how we deal with it. So, one example of this might be, experiencing a lot of anger or maybe frustration when you've got somewhere to go and you're in the line at the supermarket and somebody in front of you is fumbling through their bag and then they pull out a check and they're about to write a check. And who writes a check these days, right? But of course, you start to feel a lot of frustration. But whether or not you're going to voice or express that frustration in that situation or that context is really sort of how in that moment you might regulate your emotion. So the emotion itself would be feeling frustrated, but then the regulation is what you then do with that emotion in that situation. And over time, we can create patterns where it almost seems so automatic in the ways that we're dealing with emotions and coping with emotions. And there's actually a lot of research to suggest that these kind of patterns that we get into of regulating emotions can be different for different people in how they respond to their own emotions. And sometimes some ways are kind of related to certain clinical disorders that people experience, things like anxiety or depression or post traumatic stress they might experience after a traumatic event occurs. Those are things we'll talk about in some of the upcoming episodes of Emotional Minutes. And for now, again, looking at emotion and emotion regulation and how what you do with your emotion is different than the emotion itself. Yeah. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and you can leave questions and comments if there's anything you're wondering about or anything that you would like to hear about in a future episode. And this is Dr. B. We will see you then.